This is a short story that I wrote called Super Chicken. Early on a Monday morning in April 2002, I pulled up to the old Washington boat ramp about 5 miles east of Dayton on the Tennessee River. My plan was to turkey hunt and look for Indian relics for a few days. I've hunted and fished a lot of places over the years, but until that spring morning, I've never seen a rooster at a boat ramp. Lots of dogs, but never a rooster. He wasn't big as roosters go, but he was well endowed with a wicked pair of spurs. I figured he'd take off running the minute I stepped out of my truck. Instead, he strutted up and cocked his head as if to say, "Hey, mister, can you spare a grasshopper?" I carried my gear to the boat while the rooster went about his business looking for breakfast. Before I left, I tossed the remains of a cream-filled donut out a few feet from where I was standing and watched him walk casually up to it as if he didn't have an enemy in the world. A few minutes later, I shoved my boat away from the riverbank and jumped aboard. I looked back one last time and saw Mr. Rooster pecking away at what was left of the donut. 4 days later, with very few arrowheads and no turkey, I decided to pack it in and head for home. A bad storm the previous night had left me wet, tired, and grubby. That on top of 4 days and 3 nights of little or no sleep. Oh, something's about to get me. I hadn't given the rooster much thought until I neared the boat ramp and saw what looked to be a family fishing from the bank. A slender man, a husky woman, a young girl, and a gangly teenage boy. Like a bolt of lightning, a rooster family scenario began to form in my mind. I threw out an anchor and walked over to where the man was standing. "Hey there, y'all doing any good?" I asked. "Not much, a few little ones," he replied. I stuck out my hand and said, "My name's Don." He shook it and said, "I'm William. Most folks call me Willie. You hadn't by chance seen a rooster, have you? I was pulling away from the ramp a few days ago and the crazy thing flew out of my boat and took off running. I don't know where he went. That's the first time he's pulled a stunt like that. I've had him over a year and he always goes where I go." Willie looked down at the pavement for a moment and said, "Mister, he's up yonder in the car. We didn't know he was yours. Wait here and I'll go get him for you." "No, that's all right. You keep him. I bought him to guard my house. If anybody so much as looked at it, looked like they were up to no good. He'd puff up and hiss and show off those spurs of his like he was carrying a switchblade knife. But lately I've been having a devil of a time just trying to get him back out, get out of the truck. As soon as I stop and turn off the ignition, he hops down on the floor and starts rummaging around looking for french fries and whatnot. I guess I spent too much time playing with the little booger and feeding him junk food." I closed my eyes and smiled. "You ought to see that rascal catch a frisbee." Will scratched his head and worked a cut of tobacco from one side mouth to the other. "How in tarnation did you teach a rooster to do all that?" "Well, fact is, I didn't. There was this fella at Sail Creek Flea Market. He told me about a rare strain of roosters he raised and trained to guard Humvees and stuff for the CIA. He claimed they were meaner than a pit bull and weren't near as much trouble. He took me over to his car where nobody could hear us and said that we could get in a lot of trouble if word got out, but if I was interested, he had a demonstrator at his house that he'd let go and let me have for a big discount. He made me wear a blindfold on the way over to his place and back, and then I had to wait in the car while he went to get the rooster. We dickered around for a little while, and finally, what the hell did he do? And finally settled on me giving him a case sodbuster pocket knife, 3 bushels of apples I had bought to sell at the flea market, and a crispy new $20 bill, and he gave me Cassius. Willie tilted his head to the side. "What's a Cassius?" "The rooster," I said. "I named him Cassius after the greatest heavyweight fighter that ever lived." Willie paused and said, "Well, okay, but Cornicipius don't look to me like he'd be much in a fight." "Don't let him fool you," I said. "That's just one of his tricks, being as he's so small. When I first got him, he was so contrary I had to trim his spurs when my neighbors started complaining about their pets coming home all beat up. Willie's wife had been giving me the eye, and I don't think she was flirting. Finally, she came lumbering up and wanted to know when was the last time I'd been home. "Let me think a minute," I said. "Today is Thursday. I guess it was last Sunday. And just what does your wife have to say about you laying out on the river days at a time?" "I don't have a wife, but I got me a pretty little girlfriend, and me and her have an agreement. I don't fuss at her for cooking and washing and ironing clothes, and she don't fuss at me for going hunting and fishing. Mostly, though, I think she's just happy to see me come home." Her eyes narrowed when her husband sniggered, and I could tell that she didn't have much of a sense of humor. She whipped her head around, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "You better be glad you ain't married to me, Buster." There were a lot of cute things I could have said. Don't eat me up.
Geronimo.
You're you say you're trying to find a tender piece.
Come here.
This is a break for a go to the cash bar. All right. There are a lot of cute things I could have said. She turned and went stomping down to the riverbank while her son was trying to feed his little sister to a big ugly snapping turtle. Don't pay them kids no mind, Willie said. They carry on like that all the time. You know how boys like to tease little girls. I stood there with my mouth open while his wife pushed her kids aside. He grabbed the turtle by the tail. It would have gone a good 40 pounds and slung it halfway across the Tennessee River. There was a loud splat when the turtle hit the water, followed by a thud when little sister hit her big brother behind the ear with a flat rock that somebody had used for a boat anchor. Willie, paying no attention to the riverside skirmish, said, "Mr. Don, we just can't take what belongs to you. Let me pay you something. You can pay me by giving Cassius a good home. That's all I ask." "We'll treat him right," Willie said with a solemn nod. "The kids love to play with animals. I brought several home, but they all ran off or showed up crippled. By the way, Willie, where do you live?" He turned around and pointed to a gravel road leading up a steep ridge behind us. "We got us a little place up yonder. Living out here in the country, I bet you got a lot of coyotes and stuff fooling around your house at night." "We did when we first moved up there. Coons and possums, too." "Well, you never know about wild animals. They're liable to show up again, and old Cassius would be cheap insurance for something like that. Heck, I wouldn't let him go if I could break him from eating junk food." Willie snapped his finger, and his eyes lit up. "That's it," he shouted. "You ain't been feeding him right, and it's took the fight plumb out of old Cat Puss." "You think so?" I said quickly. "The fellow I got him from didn't say anything about what I was supposed to feed him. After he ate my gerbil and all its food, I just been giving him table scraps from whatever happened to be handy." "That's your problem right there. My Uncle Red used to give his fighters Super X mash mixed with Tabasco, cat food, and Camel cigarettes. He had him a Southeastern champion a couple years back before the judge sent him to Nashville." "So there you go. There ain't no need in you giving your rooster away. Just feed him right and he'll get mean again. No, an athlete like Cassius shouldn't be strapped down to somebody like me. He deserves better. I've got a feeling that the two of you will get along just fine. One thing, though, I almost forgot. His trainer said it wouldn't be a good idea to take him around little kids and old people." The look on Willie's eye had me wondering if I'd pushed the thing too far. He glanced at his wife and kids and motioned me over a few feet. "Last winter on a dare, that boy of mine bit the hind leg off his third cousin's coonhound and ate it. No salt or nothing. And Hank there," he gestured toward his wife, "she can churn butter, whistle orange blossom special, and wring the neck off a 20-pound turkey without breaking a sweat." I could see he had taken offense and that I needed to say something quick to tilt the scale back in my favor. "No, you misunderstood. I was talking about other people's kids. I can tell by that free Charles Manson sweatshirt your son is wearing that he wouldn't take anything off an old rooster." I didn't comment on the U.S. Marines field jacket with sergeant stripes that Hank was wearing, or his cute little daughter with the black eyeshadow and spiked leather collar around her neck, not to mention her T-shirt that read, "Dollywood, and so will I." By the time I got through praising his family, Willie was beaming like sunshine over a rainbow. "Take Cassius and whip him into the guard rooster he used to be," I said. "He'll do what's right, or we'll be having rooster dumplings come Sunday noon," Willie said with a tobacco-stained grin. Before I drove away, I hollered, "Good luck and be careful." "You sure you won't take something on old corpus?" Willie called out. I shook my head and drove out to Highway 30, crossed the new bridge, and pulled over the side of the road so I could scribble down a few notes while they were fresh on my mind. I know why parrots only got one eye, because the parrots picked their eyes out.
Thank you, Donnie, and thank you, Geronimo.
You gonna try to do it? You can tell what he thinks of my manuscript. Whoopee, whoopee, whoopee.